80 for our 8th annual African Focused Trailblazers Tour. Travel with us in 2026 when we're headed to the southern African nations of Zambia and Botswana for a historical, cultural, and vacation tour led by me, Dominique DePrima, Cultural Ambassador for African Focus Incorporated. Enjoy luxurious accommodations, conscious fellow travelers, shopping, adventures, cultural tours, wildlife safaris, and a giant waterfall, one of the world's 7 wonders, along with a chance to be of service at an orphanage on the continent. Become an AFI trailblazer by exploring the motherland with a nonprofit organization that has members in Africa and America to help roll out the red carpet for you, and together we'll make a difference and have fun doing it. For more information, visit africanfocus.org or call 310-676-7300. That's 310-676-7300 or africanfocus.org. Whether it's stateside or exploring the diaspora, we're with you every step of the way. African Focus and KBLA Talk 1580. Come go with us.
Jesse Jackson Jr. Show. Oh, 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 the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show. Oh, 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 the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show. Oh, 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 the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show. Oh, oh, come on and talk with me. Come on and listen to me. Come on and talk with me. Come on and listen to me. KBLA.
I'm Jesse Jackson Jr. Welcome forward to the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show on Wealthy Wednesdays. Our very special guest, Dr. Estavier, momentarily, a regular contributor who has one foot in the pulpit and one foot in the courtroom. He's both a lawyer and a preacher and a PhD, and scholar, and a friend. When Todd gets here, I want to talk with him about something Barbara Arnwine raised yesterday, and that is the term of the Supreme Court of the United States is now coming to its final conclusion in this year. Any day now, we are expecting, probably on the day that the term actually ends, the court's decision on Robinson versus Calais. This is the case that grows out of Louisiana that seeks to change Section 2 of the Voting Rights Act of 1965. And the two most significant provisions of the Voting Rights Act of 1965 were Section 5 and Section 2. Section 2 allows states and legislatures to draw congressional districts that give minorities an opportunity to desegregate Congress. If, in fact, due to housing discrimination and racial discrimination and historic discrimination against Black and brown people in housing, there's always a Hispanic side of town, there's always a Negro neighborhood, Blacks on the South Side, Blacks on the West Side, Black folk in Compton. We've all been relegated to some neighborhoods. There's always a Harlem, right? There's always a side of Dallas where we from, pretty much wherever there's a Martin Luther King Jr. Boulevard and wherever there's a soul food joint is where we are in cities all across our country. Wherever there's a Malcolm X Street, that's where we are. So when you have a state like Alabama that's 35 or 40% African American, given its history of racial discrimination, African Americans are dispersed across the entire state. Section 2 of the Voting Rights Act of 1965 allows for state legislatures to consider highways, byways, and streets to connect all of these African American communities into a majority-minority congressional district, not because the lines are crazy or look nutty or look like some kind of pretzel or puzzle, but because the Congress of the United States needs to be desegregated. It was an all-white male body, just like the Supreme Court of the United States was once an all-white male body. So the remedy is actually a conservative remedy. Allow state legislatures to consider race as a factor in the drawing of congressional districts. Not because we live on one side of town, but because on the south side of Chicago, we have different politics than people who live on the north side. We are a commuter district. We drive an hour, hour and a half to get to work. But if you live downtown, you walk to work or you ride your bike to work. It is a different quality of life. And that didn't just happen. That occurred over decades of housing discrimination and racial discrimination and gentrification and moving us out of the city and putting infrastructural projects as far away from us as humanly possible, putting the job base, the factories as far away from us as possible, where we have to catch public transportation to get from our side of town to some other part of town. We got to catch what my daddy would say was the early bus just to get to work. That's the reality. So after we catch the early bus and we come home on public transportation or spending a significant part of our lives in traffic, trying to get home to our children, trying to get dinner made for our families, trying to be a loving spouse, trying to get to PTA meetings and meet our children's teachers before school is out, we're stuck in traffic. Always driving in the opposite direction of the economy. Always driving in the opposite direction of the central business district of most municipalities in the United States. We just don't live near the jobs. We have to commute to get to the jobs. So the argument essentially is that since we live on that side of town and we like to have balanced economic growth, where our side of town is growing equally with the other side of town, that factories and jobs are locating in our neighborhoods and heading in our general direction, is that we need our own representatives in Congress so that when they go to Congress, they can demand that state legislatures and the Congress of the United States actually builds sidewalks on dirt streets and paves them over to make sure our trash is picked up on time, to make sure our schools are funded, to make sure we have swimming pools like schools on the other side of town, to make sure we can learn French, English, Latin, Greek, and other foreign languages, Spanish at our schools, and not just study jive. This movement to study math and geometry and arithmetic and calculus, and to have high quality teachers on our side of town, because if we're going to be competitive, our children, by the time they graduate from high school, have to have the same skill set in some other school system. And those demands must be made by people who don't see us any differently than we see ourselves, full citizens. I'm Jesse Jackson Jr., listening to Jesse Jackson Jr. Show. More on KBLA Talk 1580 when we come forward with Dr. S. Todd Yeary. Wealthy Wednesdays.
It's afternoon drive time with Jesse Jackson Jr. Only on KBLA Talk 1580.
Break out the champagne. Everybody get a glass.
KBLA Talk 1580 congratulates our own Keith Underwood, host of the weekend entertainment show Black in the Green Room, on his recent honor at the annual National Arts and Entertainment Journalism Awards. Keith received a first place award presented by the Los Angeles Press Club for his entertainment reporting, and we couldn't be prouder. Congratulations, Keith, from all of us at KBLA Talk 1580.
At Charmin, we heard you shouldn't talk about going to the bathroom in public, so we decided to sing about it.
Charmin Ultra Strong. You can use less, better than the rest. Charmin Ultra Strong. Booty past the clean test. Salmon weave texture, it's the best. Study up, teach a lesson on fresh. Your booty past the clean test. Yes, sir. Charmin Ultra Strong.
Charmin Ultra Strong with diamond weave texture cleans better than the leading one-ply brand, so you can use less. Enjoy the go with Charmin.
If you love to travel, Capital One has a rewards credit card that's perfect for you. With the Capital One Venture X card, you earn unlimited double miles on everything you buy. Plus, you get premium benefits at a collection of luxury hotels when you book on Capital One Travel. And with Venture X, you get access to over 1,000 airport lounges worldwide. Open up a world of travel possibilities with the Capital One Venture X card. What's in your wallet?
Terms apply. Lounge access is subject to change. See CapitalOne.com for details.
Now back to more of Jesse Jackson Jr. on KBLA Talk 1580.
The Jesse Jackson Jr. Show. 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 King Volley, drop the beat. Come on and talk with me. Come on and listen to me. Come on and talk with me. Come on and listen to me. KBLA Talk 1580. Download the app.
I'm Jesse Jackson Jr., listening to the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show and the J Lunch Club at 12 to 2 on the West Coast, 2 to 4 on the Central Standard Time, and of course 3 to 5 on the East Coast and all over the world on the KBLA app when you download it. Our very special guest and contributor in this hour is Dr. S. Todd Yeary, principal of the Yeary Firm, a Maryland-based litigation and government relations firm, and also serves as the senior pastor of the Douglas Memorial Community Church of Baltimore and affiliates. Dr. Yeary is also former chief executive officer of the Rainbow Coalition, the international human and civil rights organization founded by my father, the Reverend Jesse Jackson. Dr. Yeary's social justice work includes having served on the national board of the National Action Network from 2015 to 2021, past political action chair for the Maryland State Conference of the NAACP, used to call them the Nakapa tribe when I was growing up, and is co-founding principal of Community Churches for Community Development, Inc., and as the founding principal of SALT, Strategic Advocacy and Legislative Think Tank, faith-based public policy collaborative that works on regional and national empowerment strategies impacting disaffected communities. Dr. Yeary, welcome forward to the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show and to your show, The Politics of Our Faith.
I appreciate being with you. It sounds like I need to get a job.
Man, you got plenty of them. Sounds like, given the unemployment numbers that we saw this week from the Department of Labor, you might need to shed a few jobs and give another brother a chance.
Well, listen, I might need to start hiring because things aren't looking too good. If we had negative job growth 1 month and then they're starting to average between 2 months, that's not good math.
It really isn't. It really isn't. Dr. Yeary, we had a really interesting conversation yesterday with attorney Barbara Arnwine. And Barbara was saying that the Robinson versus Calais decision is likely to come down early next week, seemingly right before Christmas, not necessarily the birth of good news for African Americans if, in fact, Section 2 of the Voting Rights Act is stricken.
Yeah. The real question is not just what the holding might be, but what the reasoning might be. How do they get to what is the anticipated response? And sometimes that comes with some curious assessment of the conditions on the ground. So that's one. So I'd be interested to see who's going to write the opinion, but also what's going to be written in dissent, because many times we have to rely on the dissent to lay out the roadmap for how we push back. So it will be a very significant ruling. I don't think anybody's holding out a lot of hope that there are going to be some surprises in a good way, but we've got to take it at face value and be ready to respond whatever comes down.
I don't know what the manifestation of that response is going to be, Dr. Yeary, because I am so flustered by the idea that Viola Luizzo lost her life, Reverend James Reeb lost his life, lives were lost in Marion, Alabama, Jimmy Lee Jackson. Ultimately, Dr. King lost his life. John Lewis dedicated his life to the proposition, so did Coretta Scott King, Jesse Jackson, and so many others, that the court would even tamper with something so sacred as the Voting Rights Act of 1965.
Yeah, the issue has been and continues to be this sanitizing of history. You certainly mentioned all of those stalwart names that means so much to our lives and to our memories. But also, there's this disconnect that somehow or other, the current conditions, though arguably better, are somehow indicators that we don't still have these issues. So when you have voter ID, when you have patrolling at polls, when you have intimidation and false reporting, when you have the passing of very spurious and burdensome rules to be able to act upon your right to vote, when they move polling places that are now beyond your reach because of limitations of transportation, be they public or private. Those are the issues that I think we've got to be very, very intentional about raising awareness on, not just at the federal level, but also at the state level, because elections, by and large, are functions of state government. The only reason the feds are involved is because there are federal constitutional rights that are tied to them, and you need 14th Amendment protections to hold the state governments accountable. So we've got to be very intentional. We've got to be very sober when we take it on. Yeah, we're going to be upset. More than likely, we're going to be very disappointed. But we're going to have to grieve on the fly. We don't have time to sit around and bemoan what many of us have had some time to think about might come. We've got to think very, as Reverend would tell us, we've got to think very intentionally and very clearly about what's going to be the response, not just the reaction.
Barbara Arnwine shared with us yesterday a report from the Black Votes Matter movement that appeared to be very in-depth. She was very concerned about it because while my focus has been on 62 African Americans that we have presently in Congress that could easily be reduced to 30 by 2028 and certainly by 2030, if not less or faster. The downside, of course, is that, according to this report, that she says we could lose 180 plus state legislators, African American and Hispanic, in state legislative bodies as a result of what the decision could outlie in Robinson versus Calais.
And that's the reality of the politics and the math. But it is also, I think, insightful as to why coalition building has always been the remedy, right? We have always known that just based on the raw numbers, except in a few instances, do we as Black folk control the majority at any level of government. It has always meant that we have had to align or attach or combine our collective interests with other collective interests to be able to get achievable outcomes. We've got to change that dynamic. We've got to get back to coalition building and have substantive discussions that affect us and everybody else so that we can push back against what became the war, the contract on America, not the contract with America that Newt Gingrich came up with at the midterm of Bill Clinton's first term. That's where we keep finding ourselves coming a bit short because we can't go it alone and think that somehow or other we're going to be able to overcome this pushback. And it's not just different names, but it really is America. This is America. You know, Childish Gambino said, we know it. It's in the lyrics. So whether you call it white supremacy or something else, it is in the fabric of America to limit the resistance and the pushback on what is this entitlement mindset for the elites. We've got to get back to nation building, and we've got to get there seriously.
Dr. Erie, I appreciate what you said, and I think you're absolutely right. I mean, who am I to argue with a master teacher of the subject matter? But I do want to ask a difficult question, because I don't see this covered by various Hispanic or Latino networks around the country, quite like we're covering it and talking about it here at KBLA Talk 1580. Do our Brown brothers and sisters understand that their congressional representation comes from the Voting Rights Act of 1965 and Section 2. More specifically, that these districts are drawn to give them an equal opportunity to get elected to Congress and to state legislatures. I don't hear them raising the alarm bell or raising, if you will, holy hell, like we are doing here at KBLA Talk 1580. Turn on any Hispanic or Spanish speaking radio station in the nation, and maybe I'm missing something. I speak a little bit of Spanish, 4 years of it in high school. I can read it fairly fluently, but I can't speak it unless I practice it. I can certainly read it from paper. But to my point, are we the only one feeling this way about losing representation and the possibility of losing representation in every single legislature in the nation?
I don't think we're the only one. The issue, the responses may not be the same, but I think there are a few places that we can look to kind of get some information. Let me give you kind of two right off the top of my head. One would be to get some insight as to what is the discussion between the Congressional Black Caucus and the Congressional Hispanic Caucus. Are they discussing how they address these issues that affect their communities, and even the Progressive Caucus when you think about it? And what does that dialogue look like, sound like? The other part is looking at what's happening in terms of the outcomes. Now, they didn't spend a lot of time talking about it over the last few weeks, but something happened where, for the first time, I believe, in almost 2 decades, you had a Democratic mayor elected in Miami. Now, if you understand the politics of South Florida and what those issues look like, that could be a very telling sign about what's going on in the space. And some of these conversations may not be as forward as KBLA. KBLA is an exception to the rule. It's not the rule in terms of being willing to have out front, public, intentional conversations about these matters. Many places, because of the way the market works in terms of media, can't do that. And so I'm not necessarily listening to the radio, but I am looking at the policymakers and trying to understand, is there a meeting in the room where it happens, even if what's happening is the strategy, that gives us a sense that there is a possibility for coalition building that we can rely upon?
I'd be interested in seeing, depending upon the Robinson-Clay decision, what Justice Sotomayor has to say. And I certainly can't wait to read the dissent, which I believe is inevitable, from Ketanji Brown Jackson, to see if even at the level of interpretation of the Constitution itself, there was some dialogue between the two justices on its impact on these particular communities. But we'll have to save that for another day. By next Tuesday, we should have some answers, we believe, at the close of the session of the court. And I am just awestruck that it comes together at the same time that our premiums are going up. It comes together that we could be voting in the next election for fewer and fewer of us to represent us in Congress and at state legislative levels. It comes at a time when we celebrate and witness the birth of a Savior who brought hope and forgiveness and mercy into the world. At least that's our interpretation. But I think it also comes at a time when there are deep divisions within the body politic and deep divisions within our country. And with that said, Dr. Yeary, let me pivot for a moment to hear your thoughts on a conversation that Susie Wiles has taken from Vanity Fair. And I know we'll be talking about it more when we come forward, but we do have 3 minutes before the half hour.
A very, very interesting assessment that she gives in terms of personality indicators that
the president's a drunkard.
Yeah, he acts like an alcoholic, and the vice president is a conspiracy theorist, and on and on and on. But my first response is initially, no, say it ain't so. It's not like that wasn't disclosure. That wasn't information. That was confirmation, right? We already got a sense of that. And so what comes out of it is when the chief of staff is unapologetic about putting this out here, does that really give us a different kind of insight about who's running our government sufficient to cause us concern, or have we become numb to the chaos and to the indifference to constitutional and governmental norms, where we just have thrown our hands up and we're like, well, whatever, we'll just wait this thing, waiting it out while we think it might be an option. The question becomes, what will you have after your waiting is over? Because it may be a government that looks and feels much, much different than the one you expected.
I'm struck, and I do want to say that in these final 2 minutes, just within the last hour and a half, 2 servicemen were returned from Syria by way of Dover, and a civilian who lost their life. Donald Trump is promising an attack or some kind of retribution or some kind of military response in Syria as a result of that. First, Reverend Yuri, your thoughts about the servicemen and women who are coming home.
Having taken the oath and worn the uniform, it is always sobering that the commitment of those who serve in the military is that they are willing to give their very lives. And when they come back having given their very lives, it all calls us to think, I think, a little more deeply about what our commitment ought to be to this notion of democracy and integrity in government. So very sensitive to that. My older brother, who served in the Air Force as a military officer, often coordinated the return of military service members when he was actually stationed at Dover. And so I've gotten a little bit of a sense of what that looks like and feels like. And so this is a moment where we got to be mindful of that.
I'm Jesse Jackson Jr., listening to the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show on KBLA Talk 1580. Our very special guest in this hour is Dr. S. Todd Yeary. More on Wealthy Wednesdays with Todd Yeary when we come forward.
It's Afternoon Drive Time with Jesse Jackson Jr. Only on KBLA Talk 1580.
I'm Amber Payton with BIN News Now. President Trump is expected to reclassify marijuana from a Schedule I to Schedule III drug, easing federal restrictions.
About time. Okay, yes. I think this is a good way for them to try at least to, make it more functional.
While it will not legalize weed federally or change state laws, the move could expand research and medicinal use by recognizing its lower potential for abuse. Maryland lawmakers overrode Black Governor Wes Moore's veto to create a commission studying reparations for slavery. Backed by the state's Legislative Black Caucus, the commission will explore options like monetary payments and expanded social services. And The Weeknd just struck a major deal with Lyric Capital Group, valuing his music catalog at $1 billion. It covers his work through 2025, but not future releases, which he'll continue putting out with Universal. Get BIN News Now on demand 24/7 on the iHeartRadio app.
Get your vehicle ready for all that extra holiday driving at your local Big O Tires. For a limited time, save $100 instantly on select sets of tires with paid installation. For your nearest store, visit BigOTires.com.
This is the KBLA Sports Minute with Ray Richardson.
With the Rams already qualifying for the NFC playoffs, Chargers fans are wondering what their team needs to do to make it to the postseason. The 10-4 Chargers have 3 ways to clinch a playoff spot Sunday in the AFC. They can clinch one of the 3 wildcard slots where they win Sunday at Dallas, and if Houston or Indianapolis lose on Sunday. Houston is at home against the Las Vegas Raiders. Indianapolis is at home against San Francisco. The Chargers should put their hopes on the 49ers. There is no way Houston is losing at home to the Raiders. The Chargers' final 2 regular season games are against Houston and Denver. The UCLA women's basketball team, ranked 4th in the country, had a practice game Tuesday night at Pauley Pavilion. They beat Cal Poly 115-28. Point guard Kiki Rice almost outscored the entire Cal Poly team by herself. She led the 10-1 Bruins with 23 points. No debates, no speculation, just the info you need. That's your KBLA Sports Minute. I'm Ray Richardson on KBLA Talk 1580.
KBLA Talk 1580. Talk radio that's music to your ears. We're unapologetically progressive. KBLA Talk 1580. We've got a lot to talk about.
Hi, I'm Zoe Williams, a.k.a. the Voice of Reason, encouraging you to join me weekdays from 7 to 9 p.m. for the world's most intriguing relationship radio roundtable. Every night, I facilitate and encourage our loyal listeners to participate in the most engaging relationship discussions you'll hear anywhere. So make it a point to rendezvous with me, Zoe Williams, the Voice of Reason, Monday through Friday, 7 to 9 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. Trust me, your relationships will never be the same. The VOR is on fire tonight.
Unapologetically progressive. KBLA Talk 1580. We've got your black.
If a Lenovo computer for your business is on your holiday list, don't shop around. Just go directly to the source, Lenovo.com. It's your last chance to get exclusive deals on the PCs you want for your business, like the ThinkPad X9 14 Aura Edition and Yoga 7i 2-in-1. So avoid all that shopping chaos and price comparing, and just go directly to the source, Lenovo.com, where PCs are up to 35% off. That's Lenovo.com.
Lenovo. 10 athletes will face the toughest job interview in fitness that will push past physical and mental breaking points. You are the fittest of the fit. Only one of you will leave here with an iFit contract for $250,000.
This is when mindset comes in.
Someone will be eliminated.
Pressure is coming down.
This is Trainer Games.
Watch it on Prime Video starting January 8th.
1 year ago, flames tore through Altadena and Eaton Canyon, changing lives forever. From the ashes, can a beloved community rise stronger? Hi, I'm Dominique DePrima, host of First Things First, weekday mornings, 6 a.m. to 9 a.m. here on KBLA Talk 1580. And I'm inviting you to join us on Wednesday, January 7th, as we broadcast live from Perry's Joint on the 1-year anniversary of this horrific and devastating fire. We're remembering those we lost, celebrating the heroes and sheroes who answered the call, and honoring the resilience of neighbors who are determined to rebuild together.
I've been a strong Black woman a long time, and I can't just break down now.
Hear the stories of survival, the voices of recovery, the spirit of community that the fire couldn't destroy, and yes, the angst of those who still do not know where they go from here.
Yeah, where am I go?
At KBLA Talk 1580, we don't just cover the story, we're part of this community, and we've done our level best to hold those responsible for this fire accountable. And 1 year later, we're still standing together.
It is my hopes that Black people will rebuild those homes.
So join us live at Perry's Joint, 2051 Lincoln Avenue in Pasadena, 6 a.m. to 9 a.m. on Wednesday, January 7th, as we commemorate the 1-year anniversary of the Altadena Eaton Canyon fire. Because some stories demand to be remembered.
This too shall pass.
You're listening to Jesse Jackson Jr. on KBLA Talk 1580.
The Jesse Jackson Jr. Show. 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 King Quality, drop the beat. Come on and talk with me.
I'm Jesse Jackson Jr. Welcome forward to the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show.
Come on and talk with me.
We're live on KBLA Talk 1580 of Wealthy Wednesdays with our very special contributor, Dr. Yeary. That's Todd Yeary, whose social justice work includes having served on the national board of the National Action Network from 2015 to 21, past political action chair for the Maryland State Conference of the NAACP, and as co-founding principal of Community Churches for Community Development, Inc., and as the founding principal of SALT, Strategic Advocacy and Legislative Think Tank, a faith-based public policy collaborative that works on regional and national empowerment strategies impacting disaffected communities. Dr. Yuri, welcome forward to the show.
I got stationary. I had allergy testing today, so I'm trying to keep everything under control.
I am
You give me space.
so grateful that you are happy and that you are healthy, most importantly. And this is a season that we do need to pay attention to allergies and colds and anything else that we might catch, particularly in an environment where fewer and fewer people are getting vaccinated as a result of federal policy. Can we talk about health for a moment since you brought it up, Dr. Yuri?
Sure.
Your thoughts on the discombobulated nature of what's going on at NIH, HHS, and every other H in the federal government under the leadership of Robert F. Kennedy?
There's intentional behavior, and then there's intentional reckless behavior. And I think we're experiencing the latter. When you make it harder for folks to make their necessary healthcare decisions around access to vaccines, whatever one's opinion might be of vaccine efficacy or whatever the case might be, to say that you're going to restrict access, that's not an opt-in option. You're going to say for most people you don't get it. Basically, what you're saying is it's okay for you to pay, uh, you know, just be tone deaf and actually play with the health and well-being of folks who rely upon the government to give them insightful information. So that's a problem. But we knew it was coming. It's the challenge of, now that we got what we knew we were going to get, who's really responsible? Is this their issue, or is this really our issue? Because we refused to pay attention when the time was right. We've got to be more self-accountable to the outcomes that come from not just bad policy, but bad political participation. Because there's no way that I think that we could go too many places in this country and be able to say that this cast of characters that now runs the government should somehow be taken seriously as candidates and then be allowed to literally run the government and spend public money. And so some of this is you get what you pay for. The problem is that the price is going to be far steeper than I think any of us anticipated.
Todd, let me pivot, Reverend Yuri, for just a moment. I had a conversation, really an argument, with a pollster before the show began at the top of the hour, and I had a wonderful conversation with Atiba about it. My arguments with other people turn into conversations with Atiba. But I want to go back to the argument that I had before we began our show at the top of the hour, and that
We
was
get ready to have a fight. Is that what you're telling me? Get ready?
No, I don't think so. But I'm thinking in this moment, this particular pollster was arguing that we're going to experience very high premiums as a result of the big ugly bill, and I was saying that. I know where Bernie Sanders was on this, and I know where the California senators are on this, and the California delegation, and even the delegation in the Illinois House. But my state is one of the states where one of the senators joined the 8 Democrats who ended the shutdown to keep us from having to pay higher premiums and higher costs. So I'm torn between blaming Republicans for the cost increases because of the absence of the tax credits and the various subsidies to the Affordable Care Act, and or saying to myself, one of the consequences of, the 8 Democrats who abandoned the resistance has led to this moment. I mean, if we'd have held out just a little bit longer, we wouldn't be passing these costs on to the American people at the level that we're going to be passing them to. Dr. Yuri.
Well, you highlight the challenge of political calculus. When Senator Durbin chose to be amongst the 8, he gave his rationale. The rationale was tied to more of the harm that was being done to federal employees. We certainly understand that, and it was getting to be way out of hand, though they used the air traffic controllers as kind of the scapegoat and really kind of ignored the rest of the federal workforce that was also going without pay. That's an obligation to the human side. The other side to the human side is making sure that you don't do future harm. Here's the problem now in real time, even in light of should they have been a holdout a little bit longer. The House is going to leave Washington on Friday. Will not come back until 2026. There is no bill that the House is going to consider that addresses the very issue that's been raised. There are discharge petition discussions that are going on, raised by both parties. The Speaker has indicated no real willingness to address either of them, because I think what they're really after, remember what this administration is serious about, is really ego issues. It has nothing to do with the harm along the way. He wants a bill that has his name on it. He wants his name on the checks. He wants his name on the policies. He carries a magic marker in his pocket because he can't use a regular size pen like everybody else. Those are just real issues. And so he hates the fact that the Affordable Care Act is known as Obamacare. And so if it means that he has to be mean, he can be the Grinch at Christmas, New Year's, and any other holiday that's going to come up between now and whenever they fix it, he's fine, because he wants legislation that has his name on it. That's what this is.
He's a mean one.
Mr. Grinch.
He's a mean one.
Yeah.
Todd, we have a clip. Our producer sharing with us that we have a clip.
Okay, I like clips.
I like them when they play.
It's a setup. It's a setup. I already know.
She's the best. She's the best that's ever done this. It will happen momentarily, but we might also.
First to endorse President Donald J. Trump in 2024. And Mr. President, the New York Young Republican Club is prepared to endorse in 2028.
A third term for Donald Trump. The New York Young Republicans are clamoring to blow up the Constitution of the United States. Dr. Yuri?
All right, good people. Can we just cut across the field on this? Listen. I don't care how many times they come up with some supporting script. This has been the play from the very beginning. When the dude himself says, if you vote for me, you'll never have to vote again. That's not just a cue. That's a commitment. He ain't planning to leave. The issue is going to be, can he create a false constitutional crisis about whether or not he can be on the ballot, get it before a friendly Supreme Court to see if they're going to rewrite the Constitution in real time, absent the participation of the people. That's the hustle. And every time some idiotic just kind of video with some crazy people who get together and say, well, we're going to endorse him in 2028, as if somehow or other history and the Constitution don't matter. We do not do ourselves any favors by wasting a whole lot of time reading that foolishness. What's going to be the pushback, and are we ready to legally challenge? Why wait for him to decide whether or not he gets a case before the Supreme Court? Why are we not pushing cases to get the Supreme Court to opine on it before he has a chance to figure out what the game's going to be?
I'm Jesse
That's
Jackson.
what we've got to do.
You're listening to the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show on KBLA Talk 1580. More with Todd Yuri when we come forward.
While you're stuck in traffic, we can at least bring you up to speed on the news of the day. You're listening to Jesse Jackson Jr. only on KBLA Talk 1580.
It's never too early to start talking about money in realistic ways with your kids. JP Morgan Chase navigates how to educate your kids now about creating long-lasting, healthy money habits. Whether your kids are in elementary school, high school, or college, now is a great time to start a conversation about ways to create healthy money habits as they grow, ultimately benefiting their financial future. Talking about money in a realistic way to support your kids' lifestyle and dreams, your first banking account geared towards high school or college. It's never too early. Explaining the basics, what you earn and what you spend, building financial confidence starts with getting organized. Learning and practicing vital money skills now will stay with them for life. Tools they will have to stay on top of their finances and achieve their goals. This segment is sponsored by JP Morgan Chase.
When you turn to the Employment Development Department, we'll help you get there. Whether it's support for you and your family while you find a new job, or the resources to focus on your recovery after illness or injury, we can help you move forward. From support while you bond with your newborn, to helping serve your family while your partner serves our country. Your EDD. We'll help you get there. For more information, visit edd.ca.gov.
In a city as big as LA, healthcare shouldn't feel far away. That's why Cedars-Sinai is breaking down barriers and bringing resources like free screenings, vaccinations, and wellness programs into local communities. From Leimert Park to Lincoln Heights and everywhere in between, Cedars-Sinai is showing up, partnering with over 200 local organizations to improve access to healthcare resources. Because care doesn't just happen inside a hospital. It happens in neighborhoods and places around the city where we live, work, and grow. Cedars-Sinai, here for LA.
Roger and Tracy saved over $18,400. Cynthia was recovering from a family tragedy and saved over $10,300. If you are drowning in debt, then call Debt Blue. Debt Blue is a professional debt negotiation firm with over 20 years of experience helping people pay back a fraction of what they owe. Learn how to cut your debt up to half or maybe more. Be debt-free in 24 to 48 months, even with bad credit. With an A+ rating from the BBB, you can rest easy knowing Debt Blue is going to deliver guaranteed debt reduction. Debt Blue offers a success guarantee. You pay nothing unless your debt is reduced or completely resolved. That's right. You save money or it's free. Call now for significant debt relief and a free consultation. 800-200-8879. That's 800-200-8879. You don't have to declare bankruptcy. This program works if you owe $10,000, $20,000, or even $100,000 in debt. Call for your free consultation today. 800-200-8879. That's 800-200-8879.
Lena Bloom for the Bail Project. Imagine you're stuck in a jail cell and you can't afford bail and someone offers you a way out. Just plead guilty and you can go home and kiss your kids goodnight. What do you do? What thousands have. You plead guilty whether you are or not. Cash bail makes poverty a crime. That's why the Bail Project helps those who can't afford it while fighting to end cash bail. Because freedom should be free. Brought to you by the Ad Council.
KBLA Talk 1580. We've got a lot to talk about.
KBLA Talk 1580, connecting you with services and solutions. If you need help getting your resume in order, finding job training, or landing a job, we've got 3 great options for you. First, the City of Los Angeles has WorkSource centers across the area offering free job support. The California Workforce Development Board can help you with everything from GED prep to vocational training at no cost to you. On the federal level, the Department of Labor's American Job Centers offer a full range of services for job seekers and businesses alike. Visit careeronestop.org, or for more info, just call California's Help Center or visit cwdb.ca.gov or call 916-657-1440. For the City of Los Angeles programs, go to ewd.lacity.gov or call 213-744-7300. All these services are free to help you get your next job. This is a community call to action from KBLA Talk 1580.
Nearly 7 million Americans aged 65 and older are living with Alzheimer's disease, or AD. But did you know that Black adults aged 65 and older are twice as likely as white adults to develop AD? You may be able to reduce your risk by managing conditions like diabetes and high blood pressure, being physically active, eating healthy, and exercising your mind. To learn more about AD, the importance of early diagnosis and intervention, and a potential treatment option, visit treatalzearly.com. That's treatalzearly.com. This message is brought to you by AZI.
Now back to more of Jesse Jackson Jr. on KBLA Talk 1580.
The Jesse Jackson Jr. Show. The Jesse Jackson Jr. Show. The Jesse Jackson Jr. Show. The Jesse Jackson Jr. Show.
I'm Jesse Jackson Jr. Looking forward to the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show. Download the podcast. KBLA, Spotify, Apple Podcasts. We're lighting it up on the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show. This is Wealthy Wednesdays with Dr. S. Todd Yeary, who is now gone, I've just been told. Does that mean he is coming back? Okay, he's coming back. Fantastic. Anyway, I wanted to pick up, though, however, on what I consider to be a dangerous threat to our society. Just 2 days ago, I heard the undersecretary or under attorney general, whatever they call him, deputy attorney general of the United States, testifying before Congressman Benny Thompson's committee. And Congressman Benny Thompson was drilling the undersecretary on the question of who is Antifa? Where is Antifa? How many members do they have? Who's this anti-fascist group of Americans that Donald Trump and the Department of Justice has declared to be a threat to the national security of the United States? And then our producer, in her infinite wisdom, plays a clip of a group of Republicans who, without any shame, announced that they believe in the third term of the President of the United States, something that is clearly, from my perspective, Dr. Yeri, unconstitutional. And the idea of a third term is not sanctioned by the Constitution of the United States unless there's some scheme out there that I'm not aware of in terms of the letter of the law or what the Supreme Court might be willing to do to find some configuration in the language that justifies a third term, even though I think the intent is perfectly clear. Todd, if there ever were a group of people trying to undermine the Constitution of the United States, our producer just played them on our show.
Yeah, and they're not the originators, right? That's the successor group. We're living with the ongoing assault. This isn't new when we're talking about shadow dockets and an immediate path for this administration to take all of its grievances to the high court. This isn't a new thing. They are falling in line. Basically, they're showing us there's a succession plan for the craziness that we have endured. And if we're not careful, there will be a new generation. If you look at the aging down of the Republican Party, not just with the efforts of the late Charlie Kirk and the push for conservatism in high schools and on college campuses across the country, now with the assistance of state governments. You also see in J.D. Vance, a much younger version, no matter what Susie Wiles might say, the reality is that this is the Republican Party of the future, not the one of the past. So nostalgia is not going to get us anywhere. The concern I have is that this position of the party of the court is around this legal interpretation called originalism. What was in the mind of the founders at the time of the ratification of the Constitution before the amendments in the Bill of those things? If that's the case, I could see this court actually coming away with the fact that, or the reasoning, that the founders, if they had wanted to impose limitations, would have done so at the writing of the Constitution, not at the amending of it. And that might give them a path to somehow allow this president to forego this whole notion of term limits. And we have to be mindful that the need for term limits, as folks saw it, was after Franklin Roosevelt had been elected to an unprecedented fourth term in the 20th century. And so we've got to pay attention to that. But let's say worse things come to pass and he gets a third term. The real question is not what he's going to do. What are we going to do? What are we going to do in the second term that makes the notion of a third term less plausible? That's 2026. That's not 2028. How are we going to push back against this assault on the process of determining who represents us in federal government and the arbitrary redrawing of maps whenever a state executive gets a notion? What are we going to do about that? So rather than waiting to see what he's going to do, I'm trying to figure out what we going to do. And we need to have a what we going to do conversation, because we know what he going to do, because he's been telling us the whole time he's been coming. So waiting to see if he's really going to follow through is really it doesn't even require us to drink the Kool-Aid. We just watching who's making it and saying nothing about it.
I don't know why, Todd, and I'm going to let you have your moment of hope. I don't know why God showed me in solitary confinement the finger of God, but I do know this. This is the structure based on my research, and it too is available on Amazon.com, that the Founding Fathers bequeathed to the future of America a constitution with unlimited moral authority, but limited constitutional authority. What we have in the White House right now is unlimited constitutional authority in the office of the presidency with no moral authority. I can prove it. I can prove and show the listeners 10 years of research in the finger of God. Alexander Hamilton called it the finger of God. James Madison called it the finger of God before and after, just 30 days after the Constitution is written. They're talking about, they're so glad that the finger of God is in the Constitution. I can prove that the finger of God is there in their theology. Dr. Yeary, a little less than a minute for some closing thoughts.
It's real quick, right? Moral presence does not necessarily ensure moral conduct. So the real question is what are the people going to demand? We cannot be the generation that allows Saul to return to power simply because we want a king like everybody else.
Man,
We've got to demand righteousness and pursue it at all costs.
I'm so proud of you, Dr. Yeary. It's still our most exciting show on KBLA Talk 1580 under Dr. S. Todd Yeary, who goes through some extraordinary hoops to make our show every week. But we are so grateful between the church and between the courtroom. He is simply the best and brightest of an entire generation. More when we come forward on KBLA Talk 1580 tomorrow between 12 and 2. Look forward to talking with everyone. Until then, we're coming forward on KBLA Talk 1580.
KBLA 1580.